I've got the greatest respect for Mr. Rogue and his work. I would not have done the film otherwise.
Before Nicholas Rogue created cinema's most enigmatic alien portrait.
An alien from out of space is not necessarily true.
All right, fine.
The Man Who Fell to Earth was dismissed as incomprehensible and uncommercial by studio executives who couldn't grasp its fragmented narrative and provocative imagery.
We made an explicit reference to Wells's film.
The cast has finally revealed secrets that will transform your understanding of the film that turned David Bowie into cinematic icon and redefined what science fiction could explore about isolation, exploitation, and the corruption of innocence.
Very early. I haven't used a sort of exaggerated stage makeup for a long time, for 4 years.
The casting that required no acting. What most fans don't realize is that David Bowie wasn't cast for his acting ability. Nicholas Rogue chose him because his alien rock star persona required no performance. The decision to build the film around Bowie's otherworldly appearance and already established public image as extraterrestrial being created metatextual layers that blurred lines between character, performer, and persona in unprecedented ways. David Bowie revealed years later his confusion about what Rogue wanted from him. Nicholas told me not to act, just to be myself. I thought that was bizarre direction until I realized he'd cast me because I already seemed alien to most people. Thomas Jerome Newton and David Bowie were essentially the same being, outsiders observing human culture with fascination and horror. The actor's existing persona became the performance. Candy Clark disclosed her initial skepticism about Bowie's casting. I expected terrible amateur performance from rock star who'd never acted, but Nicholas explained he didn't want acting. He wanted David's genuine alienness and vulnerability. What looked like non-acting was actually perfect embodiment of character who couldn't understand or replicate human behavior. The unconventional approach defied traditional casting wisdom. Nicholas Rogue noted how Bowie's physical appearance eliminated need for elaborate alien makeup. David already looked like he'd fallen from another planet. Those eyes, that bone structure, his movements, everything about him read as otherworldly without any prosthetics or effects. The camera simply had to capture what was already there. The natural alien quality made the character's extraterrestrial nature completely believable. The fragmented narrative that destroyed logic. The film's non-linear structure and elliptical storytelling weren't artistic affectation, they were deliberate attempt to make audiences experience Newton's alien perspective. What the cast revealed about Rogue's unconventional approach shows how the fragmented narrative created disorientation that mirrored the protagonist's inability to understand linear human time and causality. The decision to present scenes out of chronological order without explanation forced viewers to piece together the story as Newton experienced it. Nicholas wanted audiences to feel as confused and dislocated as Newton, disclosed Buck Henry, who adapted the screenplay. The fragmented structure wasn't just style, it was the story itself. An alien's perception of time wouldn't follow human linear narrative conventions. David Bowie revealed that he often didn't understand what scenes meant or where they fit in the story. Nicholas would tell me the emotional state, but not the context. I'd play confusion, loss, or wonder without knowing why Newton felt that way. My genuine bewilderment became the character's alienation. The actor's confusion enhanced the authentic sense of dislocation. Candy Clark noted how the non-linear filming affected performances. We'd shoot the ending before the middle, intimate scenes before establishing ones. The chronological chaos meant we were all slightly lost, which created the fractured quality Nicholas wanted. Traditional continuity would have made the film too comprehensible and less alien. The production method served the thematic goals. The content that shocked everyone. The film's explicit nude content wasn't gratuitous. It was exploration of how Newton's alien perspective made human intimacy simultaneously fascinating and repulsive. What the cast revealed about filming these controversial scenes shows how nudity became metaphor for cultural collision and the impossibility of true connection between fundamentally different beings. David Bowie disclosed his discomfort with the nudity scenes. "I'd never done anything like that on camera." The adult scenes were meant to show how alien Newton found human physical intimacy. Fascinating, but ultimately alienating and incomprehensible. My genuine awkwardness became the character's inability to understand human desire. The performer's discomfort served the thematic exploration. Candy Clark revealed the emotional complexity of the nudity relationship. Mary Lou loves Newton but can never truly connect with him because he's fundamentally alien. The nude scenes showed two beings trying to bridge unbridgeable gap through physical intimacy that only emphasized their differences. It was tragic, rather than erotic. The relationship's failure reflected broader themes about isolation. Nicholas Roeg noted how the nudity challenged audience expectations. Science fiction films avoided explicit, treating aliens as or having them reproduce differently. I wanted to show what would actually happen if alien tried to engage in human intimacy. The awkwardness, misunderstanding, and fundamental incompatibility that physical similarity couldn't overcome. The provocative content served serious thematic purposes. The corporate exploitation that destroyed innocence. Newton's gradual corruption by American capitalism wasn't subtle allegory. It was explicit critique of how corporate power exploits and destroys anything pure or idealistic. What the cast revealed about this theme shows how the film used science fiction to examine real mechanisms of institutional control and how power corrupts even beings who arrive with noble intentions. Rip Torn disclosed his interpretation of Nathan Bryce's betrayal. Bryce represents the scientific-industrial complex that can't let Newton remain free and mysterious. He has to understand, categorize, and control the alien, which inevitably means destroying what made Newton special. My character's curiosity became weapon of exploitation. The scientist's actions reflected institutional imperatives over personal ethics. The film's depiction of Newton building corporate empire to fund his rescue mission showed how capitalism corrupts noble goals. Newton arrives wanting to save his dying planet and becomes imprisoned by the very system he tried to manipulate, revealed Buck Henry. The wealth and power he accumulates become chains that prevent him from ever leaving Earth. The film showed how American capitalism consumes and corrupts everything it touches. David Bowie noted how Newton's physical transformation paralleled his spiritual corruption. Newton starts pure and becomes increasingly damaged by alcohol, television, and human culture. By the end, he's trapped in human body that's been altered so he can never go home. The physical imprisonment mirrored his corruption by Earth's systems. The degradation was systematic and irreversible. The government conspiracy that felt too real. The film's portrayal of government agencies capturing and experimenting on Newton wasn't paranoid fantasy. It was based on actual intelligence programs. What the cast revealed about researching this element shows how the film drew from documented government operations that made the science fiction conspiracy feel disturbingly plausible and grounded in historical reality. The decision to show Newton's capture and medical examination reflected real concerns about how governments would handle actual alien contact. "We consulted with people who knew about classified programs," disclosed the production team. The idea that government would immediately imprison and study any alien visitor wasn't science fiction speculation. It was logical extrapolation from documented behavior toward anything unusual or threatening. Buck Henry revealed the film's commentary on institutional power. Newton's capture showed that governments would treat first contact as security threat rather than historic opportunity. The immediate impulse would be control, exploitation, and weaponization rather than communication or cooperation. The cynical portrayal challenged optimistic alien contact narratives. The television addiction that predicted everything. Newton's obsession with watching multiple television screens simultaneously wasn't just plot device. It was prophetic vision of media saturation and information overload. What the cast revealed about these scenes shows how the film predicted modern digital culture's fragmentary attention and the psychological damage of constant media consumption. The famous sequence of Newton surrounded by televisions, showing simultaneous programs, created visual metaphor for contemporary media experience. Nicholas showed information overload destroying Newton's mind decades before the internet and social media made it universal experience, disclosed cinematographer Anthony Richmond. The multiple screens represented how media fragments consciousness and prevents coherent thought or emotional connection. Candy Clark noted how television replaced their actual relationship. Mary Lou loses Newton to the screens. He can't engage with her anymore because he's absorbed by mediated reality rather than present experience. The film predicted how media addiction would destroy genuine human connections and relationships. The technology that promised connection created isolation. The ending that offered no hope. The film's conclusion, where Newton remains permanently trapped on Earth, wasn't ambiguous. It was deliberately hopeless statement about irreversible corruption and loss. What the cast revealed about this devastating ending shows how Rogue refused redemption or escape to create one of science fiction's bleakest portraits of alien contact and human nature. David Bowie disclosed his understanding of Newton's final fate. Newton can never go home. Physically altered so space travel would kill him. Spiritually corrupted so he no longer belongs to his own species. He's trapped between worlds, belonging to neither, forever isolated. The ending was unrelentingly bleak because Nicholas believed that's what would actually happen to any alien who came to Earth. The hopeless conclusion challenged genre conventions. The film's final image of Newton listening to his own album and saying, "They'll hear it," suggested his message would reach his dying planet, but he never would. That last moment was devastating. Newton's people might hear him, but they can't save him, and he can't save them, revealed the cast. He's broadcasting his failure and entrapment as final communication with a home he'll never see again. Nicholas Roeg revealed his deliberate rejection of Hollywood endings. Science fiction films typically ended with alien returning home or finding belonging on Earth. I wanted to show the more likely outcome: the alien trapped, exploited, and destroyed by humanity's institutions and appetites. The pessimistic ending was honest rather than satisfying. The refusal of comfort or hope distinguished the film from conventional science fiction. The Bowie album that was the film. David Bowie's album Low, recorded shortly after filming, wasn't a separate project. It was musical continuation of the film's themes and his immersion in Newton's consciousness. What Bowie revealed about this connection shows how the role fundamentally changed his artistic approach and created one of his most influential albums through channeling Newton's alienation and fragmentation. The album's fragmented structure and emotional coldness directly reflected the film's aesthetic and Newton's alien perspective. The instrumental pieces on Low represented Newton's inability to communicate in human language, while the song fragments showed consciousness, struggling to maintain coherence, revealed music critics analyzing the connection. Bowie essentially made Newton's internal soundtrack. Producer Tony Visconti noted how Bowie's Berlin period following the film was escape attempt. David moved to Berlin partly to escape the Newton character and the lifestyle that had developed around playing him. The geography change was necessary for psychological survival. The role's impact extended far beyond typical acting experiences. The influence that shaped science fiction cinema. 200 words. The Man Who Fell to Earth's impact wasn't immediate but profound, influencing decades of filmmakers who studied its unconventional approach to alien narratives. What the cast revealed about the film's lasting legacy shows how it created template for treating extraterrestrial contact as tragic rather than triumphant, and exploring isolation rather than adventure. The film's influence on subsequent alien movies proved substantial, from E.T.'s loneliness to Under the Skin's alien perspective. Watch the film again with appreciation for its prophetic vision of media saturation, its influence on experimental science fiction, and its unflinching portrait of how innocence and idealism are corrupted by institutional power. Notice how Bowie's performance requires no traditional acting, and how the fragmented structure creates the alien perspective rather than just depicting it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into films that challenged audiences and redefined genres through uncompromising artistic vision. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads, and let us know in the comments whether Newton's fate was inevitable or if humanity could have done better. We're all falling to Earth.